Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Passion Institute. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about focus to be able to flourish today. Every single person that I know is either working on them growing themselves personally or in their work or both. So I want to talk about how do you actually grow your business without the distraction of everything that is going around us at the moment. And at the moment, the noise is getting louder. Whether we're talking about AI, I spoke about that, and we'll be doing many, many other podcasts on this particular topic, as is the rest of the world, because it's going to continue to get bigger and hopefully better, but we don't know that and we'll wait and see. But the opportunities that are there, the constant comparison that are there, how do we actually stay focused on some of the hardest, yes, most essential things that we've got, the skills that each of us need as an entrepreneur and a leader. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about how to stay centered, how to stay disciplined, how to stay aligned to your purpose and your passion so that you and your business can truly grow. And one of the things we need to be able to do that. Earlier this year, I was coaching a client, and one of the things she shared with me was that she is currently working in 7 different businesses. It sounds mad, but she's working in 7 different businesses. Now, she's not an employee, she's an entrepreneur, and 3 of those businesses are already fairly established, but she's got 4 new businesses on the go. And that makes sense from some perspectives because we have that saying of having more irons in the fire. Let's see which one works and which one doesn't. But every idea, she said to me, looked really shiny. Every thing looked really tempting. And then it was not until she realized the fact that distraction was what was costing her growth and having herself spread out too thin in a number of those areas. And so I wanted to talk about how do we stay focused on what really matters to you so you can grow that business. I too have done it at one particular time. I had 3 different businesses, maybe not 7, but I had 3 different businesses. And I noticed that the one that was already doing really well started to plateau a little bit. The performance of the team and the revenue and the profit in that particular business started to not destabilize. It was happening in small increments, but often when we get distracted, sometimes the loss isn't instant, it's over a period of time. So the first thing I want to talk about, we always talk about leading from the heart, and we always want to reconnect to the purpose of what it is that why we started this particular business in the first place. So we want to reconnect to the why, because that is that anchor in terms of why you set up for that business. So as it starts to grow, we don't need to be less going back to the roots. We often need to go more to the roots because there's more opportunities, there's more things to distract us, and there's more things to be able to say yes to. So as an entrepreneur and leader, if you're listening to this, is the question to always ask yourself, is this opportunity that's coming up for me? And there'll be hundreds of these opportunities a year, if not more. Is it really aligned to my purpose? And that's great. But the other question I always ask is it also feeding my ego? Because to be honest with you, when some people have asked me to be involved in certain projects, maybe even partner with them to start up a new business, which happened a couple of years ago, I spent 3 months talking to this person on a weekly basis, looking at how we could actually potentially have this business there. And when I went back to asking those 2 questions, what is my purpose and is it really feeding my ego? One of the things that was super clear to me was that for me, in that instance, it was feeding my ego. So when I talk to heart-led entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are really in there doing that, even the leaders that really believe in the vision and the purpose of your business, it's really important to ask those questions so that you're making decisions for the longer term and not the decision you're there. I also, a couple of episodes ago, spoke about the Japanese culture. I'd recently spent some time in Japan, and I'm back there in the next few days as well. And so when I come across Japanese, craftspeople, they talk about, the fact that they spend decades to perfecting a skill, rather than this beautiful reminder about being focused and not always multitasking, which we are now learning some of the downsides of that multitasking happening as well. So if you're being pulled in a lot of different directions, the question to ask is, what would I do if I trusted my purpose more deeply? Is it feeding my ego? And really making sure that you go back to that particular part. Now let me take that question around this notion of being able to focus, to be able to flourish, from the sense of head. And because the head is really about that clarity, making sure that you've got your strategy in place, Because when the clarity is there, one of the things it does is it cuts through all of the distraction that actually exists. So sometimes focusing on that one big goal, and one of my favorite books I've read in the last decade was The One Thing, because you focus on the one thing at the one time and you start to take away some of those distractions. And that gives you absolute clarity what it is. Now, I've also come across people that use the one thing as in terms of their North Star to navigate what they're trying to do in their life. I always like breaking it down, because I think from a business standpoint, I want to know my 90-day cadence. I want to know what is my greatest impact that I can have this quarter, which hopefully then leads to the year goal, and that leads into perhaps the 5-year goal, and perhaps that leads into something bigger. And the question that I would recommend, and the question that I ask myself is, does this action move the needle in the direction that I want to go to? Does this action move the needle towards my vision, or is that actually taking me away from my vision and actually is going to become a distraction? So discussing the strategy tools around that, whether we look at the Pareto principle of 80-20, saying no to some of the good ideas because they don't align, and leaving that space for the others. The other thing, I know I follow Warren Buffett occasionally, and one of the things he talks about is he almost says no to every deal. It's almost a standard. He says yes to very little deals. What does that do? It keeps him clear, and having that clarity doesn't get him distracted. The number of people that would want to do deals with Warren Buffett, right? Because there's so much to learn from a master like that. So just saying no and encouraging, instead on focusing your systems, your calendar blocking, making sure you've got some accountability partners, and you've got these sprints in those 90 days that are going to help you stay focused around that. One of the examples I wanted to give you is somebody last year that I was working with. And one of the things that this particular client did was that he actually doubled his business, 2x his business in 6 months, just by simplifying the service offering. And by reducing the service offering, I think we went from, in those few sessions, from 11 down to 3 core service offerings. It became very clear to the world what it was that he was actually offering. And as a result of that, he was able to create that clarity and again be able to focus that on that strategy from a cadences perspective as well. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about is from the habit. How do we build these daily focus practices? I've been listening to Steve Bartlett, who I absolutely love. Like, he is the GOAT. Isn't he the greatest of all time? Around the way that the guests that he has, the way he interviews, I learned so much from him. I think, again, he's one of those masters to learn from. And the idea with discipline is that discipline doesn't move because of your mood or the weather or something external. So it's so important to be able to start the day. And one of the things I do is I do a ritual called 10-10-10. I meditate, I journal, and then I read. And I also take an extra minute or so to set my intentions for the day. So how do I actually build those focus part of the day? And the end of the day habit, one of the really important things is to, just review maybe for a couple of minutes, whether you do that in a journal or just as you're sitting up in bed and going, how did my day go? Was I focused or was I distracted? What worked? What didn't work? Having rituals in your diary that actually help you look on your week and look at reflecting on your wins, again, the things that work and are worth continuing doing, and perhaps there are some things that are not worth doing and we need to be able to let you do. An idea that I got from somebody who actually shared this with me, who's a client, is that she has a thing called Focus Friday. So every Friday she has about 45 minutes in her diary, which looks at the fact that she will do a review of the week. She said, I get more out of that 45 minutes than any of the other meetings that I attend during the week. And she's a senior executive and attends a lot of meetings. And she said that in that 45 minutes, she again asked those questions: what worked, what didn't, what do I continue, what was worth doing, what wasn't worth doing? How did that meeting go with that particular staff member or the board member or whoever? How could I actually become more focused? So she actually has a session in her diary for 45 minutes on a Friday called Focus Friday, where there's no meeting, there's deep thinking, but more importantly, there's deep reflection. And the other part when you're building some of your practices is, again, to look at some of your energy that might be going out. Looking at your sleep, looking at your boundaries, looking at the amount of time that you might be around devices. Now they're saying that I lose myself in social media unless I've actually got a timer on. So I put a 10-minute timer on. And I love Gary Vee, who talks about the fact that stop consuming content, start creating content. So I make sure that in my 10 minutes, I'll spend most of it creating a content or recording something or having a little video. And so sometimes also having a distraction detox. For example, you just go, actually digitally, I'm just going to remove that in the evenings for a whole week. So I'm not going to look at any social media for a week. It doesn't have to be forever. And then see how your focus shifts as a result of that. I'm a big one for, not just saying this is going to be forever, but do an experiment for 7 days and see how actually that goes. So for leaders and entrepreneurs listening and tuning into this podcast, when you say true to your purpose, when you think with clarity and you act with that discipline, your business will grow. It'll grow faster. It'll feel lighter. It'll be because, you have focused on the things that matter and you're focusing on less things and you're focusing on the things that are actually going to, last the test of time. And there is this beautiful saying that I have heard hundreds of times and I still hear it, is that where your attention goes, your energy flows. And I believe that where your attention goes, not only will your energy flow into it, but it's where your business will grow. And so you want to really be there. And the one thing I'd also ask you to think about today is, what's the one distraction that you're going to let go for 7 days? And it might be only 10 minutes a day, it might be 45 minutes a day, but what is it that you're going to do? So I hope that listening to this podcast, it sparks a few things. I hope that whether you're a founder or a leader in a business, that you start to think about how you could reduce the distractions to scale and grow faster and realize what you do. I look forward to sharing more insights with you. If you could take a moment to review and rate the podcast, I would so appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in.